Ann Billings, Rafi Podolsky, Ben Castagni, Albert, Dave Delory, Jennifer, and Michael Troll. So that's who we have online. Troll, is that how you spell it? Or Troll? Trolley? Mike, you're muted.
You're on mute, Mike.
Okay, so we'll start the meeting. So number one is minutes of the previous meeting. Would anyone like to make a motion to approve it? That's back in December, folks, because our March meeting was canceled due to lack of quorum.
So moved.
Dave made motion to approve it. Anyone want a second?
I will second it. Yep. We'll
Who
get all
seconded?
kinds.
Ben, second?
No.
Al, seconded. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Opposed or abstained? Okay, so minutes were passed unanimously. Item number 2, comments or concerns of any person present. Is there any person present that has comments or concerns for something that's, not necessarily on the agenda that we're going to talk about later? No? Okay, moving on. DCP complaint and inspection reports. Anybody here from DCP want to go over that? Juanita, is that you?
Janita.
Janita, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I looked at it quick.
You should all have received a copy of the report for the time frame of February 20th, 2025 through the May 21st, 2025 time frame. There were 14 cases. 1 is open, 13 are closed, 11 were closed by the legal department, and 2 were closed by the investigator. So, Madam.
Okay, does anyone have any questions for Janita?
I looked at this briefly this morning. Were there any, I didn't see any newly open complaints. Did I read that right or did I miss something?
There's 1 new complaint on that list. It's at the bottom.
Okay.
And that would go to the date of 5/21/2025. Should anything have arisen between then and now, will not be on that list and will not be up for discussion.
Okay. It's fine.
I have a comment or a question, I guess.
Who's speaking, Dan?
Yes.
Okay,
10 of the ones that were closed were from Stonegate Manor, where I live. And I put an email into the attorney on it, Ms. Fernandez, and I also sent an email to the commissioner asking that those be reopened. I have not heard back, but I hope to soon.
Mr. Billings?
Yes.
Anything this is Janita Hamill, Supervising Special Investigator. Anything that's in the legal department is handled by legal, and it would not be by my unit for investigations. And if you ask the attorney and the commissioner to do something until they have responded to you and contacted Director Pamela Brown to guide us more, nothing's going to happen from us in investigations. So your answers would need to come from the legal department and the commissioner's office, sir.
So basically, I wait. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome, sir.
does anybody have any other questions?
Rafi's trying to talk. Rafi, you're on mute.
You're muted. You have to unmute.
Okay, there. Am I unmuted?
You are
Yep.
now, yes.
I guess I have the same question I have every time we're here, which is that most of these are closed files, so we don't have the issue of what can or can't be disclosed. But the chart doesn't really tell us what the issue is, unless I'm missing something. So maybe you could direct me on the chart. But in column, like in column M, it says dispute between resident and mobile home park, which
Yeah.
of course they all are. And then in N, it also says that. And then in O, it says no action. Well, some say no action, legal closed. Some just say closed. One of them I'm seeing on row 13, it says file and monitor closed. Then in P, it says CACV for an AVC for a number of them. And I'm not sure. And what I would like to know is what was the complaint about? How was it resolved? And was the complainant satisfied? And I can't.
The
Am I missing something
file,
in this, because I'm not finding that here?
the dispute between residents and mobile home and condo association or landlord is the only description that's in the tracking system that we have at this time to be able to take and insert when we are doing a mobile home park complaint investigation. The dispute and the other information at the closure is also a predetermined item that is there in the licensing system. When it says closed, legal closed, contact legal, that means any information you want to know as to what the resolution was with regards to that matter, it must come from the DCP legal department. Once we send a file up to legal for review and determination of next steps for possible alleged violations, legal handles it. Unfortunately, and I've said this before, when legal closes a file, I don't have the information you're looking for. That must come from the legal department. And when it says CAVC, that's an assurance of voluntary compliance. That is a type of settlement agreement that the department uses to settle files. And the legal department has already pointed you in that direction. I don't have a copy of what they did or what transpired. So that is information that must come from the legal department.
Okay, no, that's very helpful. Let me then, in terms of this chart, which, I mean, the numbers go from 1 through, is it 15,
I
14?
have 1 through 9.
No.
Am I looking at something different? Because I'm a little confused. I have 9
You might.
numbers.
Are you looking at a previous report, ma'am? Because the bottom of the file report
Oh, I see.
will
Okay.
say Mobile Home Council Report 02.20.2025 to .05.21.25. That's the current
Oh, I'm
report.
looking at the wrong one. I'm sorry. I'm looking
Well,
at
no,
we had both of
no.
them. We had both of them. So, okay. I see now.
Okay.
There are,
Um,
I
Yeah,
see
there were
there's
2
2.
documents.
Sorry
All right,
about that.
I think this is because the last meeting didn't happen. So what we
Right,
actually
right.
have is the report for the last meeting.
So there were
which
9 from the
February.
last meeting through
And
2
then, okay, so we actually, and I haven't, partly it's because I realize I need to cut and paste these things together because they don't all fit on one page. And when you print them out, they go, you know, it's because they're like 20 columns wide. Is if a case is still going, it will, am I right? It'll show up on, it'll keep showing up in every quarterly report until it's resolved.
Yep.
Okay,
So if
so-
you, if
so-
you look in column 2, which is B for status, it shows that the last one from Beacon Falls is an open file. Everything above that is closed.
Yes, I see that.
Okay,
So the River's Edge Mobile Home Community one is open, and that's the only open one. The rest are all closed.
okay.
Yes, ma'am.
And then
Okay.
if you go to the next sheet under O, it'll say resolution close, legal close, contact legal.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so what I want to do, here, let me try and be more specific then. So you've told me that if it's legal, you don't have it anyway. So that's something that we have to deal with legal on.
Mhm.
For the ones that are not legal,
Mm-hmm.
if we would like to have, when it has the AVC marking, of an assurance of voluntary compliance, are those inherently all legal?
Yes, sir.
So you don't do, you and the inspection end don't do AVCs. Those are things the legal may do in order to settle the case, the complaint.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
For the mobile home park councils, yes.
Okay, so working just with the ones, just as an example, what row number would be an example of a closed one that was within your responsibility? Like number 13? Would that
Yep,
be-
13 and 14.
Okay.
Yep,
So if we wanted, so these are closed files, which means everything in them is open to the public. So
yes, sir.
the question then becomes, what is it that we see? So, you know, if I FOI'd the file, I could look at the whole file.
Yes, sir.
But I guess what my request is, as a council member, I would like to know more about the file than what's in the box. So for example, for 13, it says the hydrant was fixed and the burned homes removed.
Yes.
So I'm assuming that there was a written complaint. So there was a complaint filed.
Yes.
And was there any kind like of a written agreement at the end or an order or something?
No, sir. No,
It was
that's
just,
only with legal.
okay, so it was just you did a reinspection and the situation was taken care of at that point.
That's what
Okay.
that means. Yes, sir.
Well, it would be helpful, from my end at least, it would be helpful for purposes of the council just trying to understand the nature of these complaints. If maybe this would be an attachment to your report or something like that, that you could include a copy of the complaint. So you're talking about closed files. So the complaint is something that's accessible to us. Rather than making us individually ask for something, is there a way we could to expand what you routinely give us? I'm trying to think of what might be in the file that would be relatively easy for you to give us. It would just mean making a copy of a complaint.
And may I just, when I first got on the council, the first agenda that I had, DCP had provided us with a copy of the complaint and the reports relative to closed complaints, but we haven't gotten those, you know, in recent months. But I remember the first time I printed a agenda and all of these, I was shocked because all of a sudden I had like 50 pages. There was a lot of stuff. But I remember that was occurring when I first was on the council, the first meeting I was at. But I don't think since then we've gotten any of that. Is it possible to include the information as an attachment to this chart? The ones that are closed, Janita?
Well, this is Pamela Brown, Director of Investigations.
Hi, Pamela.
What you may have received, maybe that pertained to a official, was to call a complaint from legal, because we would not have provided that to you. We do not routinely
Okay.
provide that to you. What we provide is a spreadsheet that's data that's captured from the system that we use called eLicense, and it populates the fields based on what's in our eLicense system into a spreadsheet that we provide to you. We do not provide individual complaints, and we have not.
Yeah, I think, it was my first meeting and it's the last time I ever saw that. So that's why I was just asking, because I remember when I printed out the materials, I was like, wow, this is a lot of stuff. So that must have come from legal at that time, is what you're saying?
I would
Pamela?
assume so. Perhaps there was a case that you were looking at. What I might need to do is I know Jason Cohen is on here. If there's a way to reprogram that spreadsheet so that you can get more detailed information. But again, we don't control the information. It's simply being pulled down from the eLicense, that what we use to enter our data for each complaint that we're investigating.
Well, I understand that when you're looking at a chart, I mean, it's a little box. You can only put so many words in it. And I understand that. But I mean, I was trying to just identify something. I mean, I'm not looking for 50 pages of documentation, for every one of these cases. But it just seemed to me that something that would be manageable would be the complaint itself, because presumably that's a page or two. And it wouldn't fit into the box. So it wouldn't fit with this sort of your system of populating, a chart like that. It would really be in the nature of an attachment that for any closed case that you were listing that was where you were the entity closing it, as distinct from legal closing it, that routinely you would include a copy of the complaint. And so I'm just wondering, is there any reason that couldn't be done, so that when we get this, in addition to the chart, for, like in this case, I guess it would be for 2 of the files, we would also have a copy of the complaint, which then allows us to see what sort, I mean, with some degree of detail, what sort of complaints are coming into the department, because that may well alert us to something that we might want to, be expressing an opinion on, or looking into, not looking into the case as an investigator, but looking into the issue that the case raised in terms of policy. So is that something you could do, or do we have to go through, or to get that, do we need to make a request to the commissioner, or, for us to get this, say, made routine, so we don't have to ask for it every time, what would we have to do today so we could get that in place?
The system does not attach any copies of documents to the spreadsheets, to the reports. And it would mean that the investigator is going to have to spend a day in the office to pull those out, upload them as a PDF, send them, so that when this report goes to Rochelle, separate documents are going to be PDF uploaded to Rochelle to attach to your agenda. If that was something that the agency was going to do, that's how that would happen.
Am I right? Rochelle's on this meeting? I only see 4 people on my screen.
Michelle's here.
Yeah, I mean, is that something that Rochelle could do as part of her prep?
We're going to need to have an internal discussion about how we can put together what you're asking for.
All
It
right.
could be simple as maybe we get more descriptive in one of the columns, but it's going to have to be an internal discussion a decision could not be made at this point. Again, because it may involve our IT department, and we don't want to speak for them because it's naturally it's going to entail some kind of programming.
All right, well, I'd like to, I don't know that this requires a motion, but Liz, I would like us to request of the department that as part of the routine reports, that there be an attachment of the complaint and I guess I would say of any other information the department thinks would be of relevance, but the complaint for sure, even if that's the at least that would be a start in a step in the right direction. We could. And would you want me to make a motion on that, or could that we just?
I mean, you certainly could. I don't think we need to, because we have, DCP is here and, we're requesting that attachment. And was it Pamela or Janita said that they would look into what would have to happen for that to occur? So, DCP, you guys will look into that for us and get back to us?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I would say first of all, I mean, I assume the minutes would reflect this, but
Yes, the minutes will.
I guess what I'm saying is I would like this to be a request to actually, not just to look into it, but to actually do it.
All right. Well, would you like to make a motion?
Submit the motion, I'll second it.
Sure. I guess I'd move that we request that DCP provide in conjunction with the periodic reports, a copy of each complaint that for each
closed case.
I guess for each closed
By
case.
the department, not legal.
Yeah. Well, I think we need to address for each closed case.
Yes.
Let me frame this for each closed case or other file that is available. I'm not sure what the status of an AVC case is, whether that's considered closed or not closed. But if it's considered, and like I say, I'd like a motion to deal with both. So the motion is we request that the copy of the complaint be attached to the report for any reports where the complaint is available. And DCP presumably will not attach it for anything they consider still confidential.
All right. Does somebody want to second that?
Seconded.
Okay, that was seconded by Dave. Now, discussion.
This discussion, I would only point out that we're talking about, four meetings a year. So they'd have to do this for, once a quarter.
I personally would like to get a little bit more information as to how they can do it. But I'd like to hear from DCP first as to how they could get that to us and what that entails. But till the next meeting. But anyway, we have a motion and a second. Do we have all in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, so motion's carried. That is the request, and that'll be reflected in the minutes, correct, Rochelle?
Yep, I have it down.
Perfect.
Okay, my next question is there anyone here is anyone from legal at this meeting?
We're not there. We're getting there.
Oh, that's okay.
The next item on the agenda. So are we good with council investigations report right now? Does anyone have any more questions? If not, we're going to move on to item 4, which is DCP legal. And is there anyone from legal here today? I guess that is a no.
Okay, I still have a proposal though.
Okay.
Okay,
so
so the legal ones,
didn't you include that in the last request? for each cold
Well,
case.
okay, well, I'm not sure if we did or didn't, so I guess I guess maybe let's be clear on it. As I understand it, it's common for legal to complete a disposition of a case by essentially negotiating a settlement with the park owner. And I gather from this that it's very common that the settlement is an assurance of voluntary compliance, which appears to be a final disposition of the case. So, and it wouldn't surprise me if these are ongoing things, like the park owner promises that that they'll take care of, they'll chop trees down when they have to in the future or something like that. So it's the agreement is the end of the case, even though compliance goes on for some period of time. So it seems to me that for purposes of availability, I think the consul, until it's told otherwise, should treat an AVC as essentially a completion of the case. And the assumption is it's, even from the department's perspective, it's not an open case. So I guess for legal, again, I would say that we're specifically requesting a copy of the complaint, but also a copy of whatever is the resolution of the complaint. Presumably an AVC is going to be in writing, and the owner is going to promise to do something. So I think, at least for purposes of requesting, we should assume that that's available. And the DCP can always tell us it's not, but I think we should assume that it is. So I would say both a copy of the complaint and a copy of the written report as to how the complaint is ultimately resolved. And I guess, let me make that as a motion, that's a request to DCP, that we request that DCP provide that in conjunction with this quarterly report. So it may mean part of that report. That at least at the time of the quarterly report, because the quarterly report actually, for the things that have gone to legal, actually all it says is see legal. And so I don't know, do we get reports from legal on the disposition of their cases?
I don't know.
All right. Well, then I think our request is that we get a quarterly report of of cases that have been filed, and disposition, a copy of the complaint, and a copy of disposition, to the extent that they're available. As long as they're not confidential, we should get a copy.
Okay, is that a motion, Rafi?
Yes, that's a
All right,
motion.
do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Abstained? Okay, motion carried. So, Rochelle, would you please let the minutes reflect that motion as well? So basically, the first one is for DCP closed cases, and the other is for legal closed cases. Department closed cases versus legal. So, that being said, since there's no one here from legal, number 5, report from CHFA. Brian, I see that you're here today. Would you like to give us a report?
Sure.
Great.
So, great things are happening over here at CHFA, which is exciting. Last time, so we didn't have a meeting last time. I know in February or March, rather, there weren't enough attendees. But prior to that, I had given a bit of a preview as to what the mobile manufactured housing enhancements would look like. Let me see if I could share my screen here. All right. So, we've improved the program. We've made some enhancements where we are allowing up to 100% financing now, up
Nice.
to $150,000. Yeah, so that should help a lot of people. So when we did our research with Capital for Change and looked at the numbers, one thing that, had been a guideline was having a 20% equity position in the property, thus needing 20% down. So now The program will be opened up to 100% financing. Again, max loan of 150,000. The rate is going to be at 3%, which is an incredibly low below market rate. It could be a 15-year or 30-year fixed rate mortgage if the loan amount is over $5,000. If it's 5,000 or under, then it'll be a 15-year fixed rate mortgage. There's no PMI, or as we call it, mortgage insurance, which is nice. Normally, when you don't have 20% down on a mortgage, you need to pay a monthly fee of mortgage insurance. So yeah, these are some great enhancements. I believe there's 4.75 million in funding for the program that we have had from the state. I do think the money could go rather quickly because these guidelines are pretty great. We are also, most of the money will be earmarked for purchases, but some of the money will be earmarked for refinances. So eligible homeowners who have had their property at least 6 months, or their mortgages for 6 months or longer, might be able to get a rate and term refinance also at that 3% rate. So that will have a chance to help some existing homeowners as well. But yeah, we're very, very excited about it. Capital for Change is still lending on this, but First World Mortgage, who's actually our #1 Chaffel lender for the last 10 years, they've actually also jumped on board and will be offering this program. So now there'll be a couple, and we have a few other lenders that are taking training today and tomorrow that will likely jump on board. So it's quite possible borrowers rather will have a few different options for lending choices. But of course, we set the rate and the guidelines for the program. So regardless if they deal with First World or deal with Capital for Change or a different lender who eventually gets approved, all borrowers will get the same terms and rates and closing costs and whatnot. But yeah, this marketing flyer here lives on our website. This is, easy to download and print out if you want. It's a trifold. We also have, let me see if I could do this here. Boom. We also, it's on our website. If you go to chfa.org, you can go to our mobile manufactured home loan program, and you can see the parameters right there for the program. So you can have anybody who's interested go to our website. They'll see the lenders here at the bottom of the screen. But yeah, I mean, God, with 100% financing at 3% fixed, I think we're going to open the doors to help a lot of people with this enhanced program.
Brian, I have a question for you.
Sure.
First of all, what were the two amounts that were for mortgages, and then what amounts were for the refi? That's the first half of my question.
How much money is earmarked for purchases versus refinances? I believe there's 4.75 million in the pot, and I don't have the exact breakdown, but I want to say maybe 3.75 would be dedicated to purchases. So approximately $1 million would be dedicated to the refinances. That's at least what I believe has been talked about.
Okay, and the other question I have is, has either the Manufactured Home Association or the Homeowners Alliance been made aware of this? So you have the mobile manufactured home, the owners, and then you have Manufactured Homeowners Alliance. Has either one of these organizations been made aware of this?
I don't know. I would have to consult with the marketing department on that. I know they're planning some targeted outreach. But if you want to send me the names of those two organizations, in an email or chat, I can definitely circle back with you.
You were at their meeting in December.
Correct. I do attend their annual meeting at Fox. Was it Foxwoods, I want to say? Yes.
Yeah, it was at Foxwoods. Yeah. And honestly, I didn't know about the Connecticut Manufactured Home Owners Alliance until I saw some recent legislation that came out, and I looked them up, and that is an alliance for homeowners. I assume, Dave Delore, you probably know more about that than I do. But anyway, I just thought it was worth mentioning, maybe getting the information out to the park owners and the park tenants would be great as far as, trying to spend some of this money.
Sure.
I do have a quick question. Is so when did the program start?
The enhanced program was rolled out last Wednesday.
Okay, so if I go down to our newsletter in the community here, it comes out once a month. The deadline is next week. So I can print out a copy of your flyer from your website and just walk it down to the office and at least make it available to people in my park, which is about 600 600 units.
Wonderful.
And so I mean, I know people that are, have purchased within the last 6 months to a year and also have long-term loans. And I would think they would certainly be interested in something that had a 3% a year
Fantastic.
refinance rate. So see what we can do about that. Thank you. Thank you for that.
Oh, my pleasure.
And we can post it up on our website as well.
Excellent. Excellent. Very good. Yeah, Liz, what were those two organizations again? I'm just going to write them down and ask my
The
marketing
first one I'm
department.
looking at is the Connecticut, so I was recently given some proposed legislation, and within that legislation, it speaks to a organization called Connecticut Manufactured Home Owners, not homeowners, Home Owners Alliance. So homeowners, but I could pull it up here. I could send you that.
Yeah, if you
sort of-
could, thank you.
sort of on the
Yes,
side on that one too.
thank you. Thank you.
And then you should have the information on the park owners
Park ownership.
association, but if not, I can get you that as well.
Cool.
There are no owners here today.
Is that Mark Asness? Is he the president of
Yes,
that?
Mark, yes, Mark Asney. Yep. So you know how to reach him.
I do. Yeah.
And Dave Delory is the president of the Residents Alliance. So
Okay, good to know.
the statute for the existence of the council specifically provides for those two organizations, assuming that they exist, to essentially filter the park owner and the park resident members of the council. So the question I have.
Hang on just a minute, Rafi. After you're done, Ben would like to speak. So
I'm sorry. Okay.
No,
No.
that's okay. He's got his
but-
hand up. So I'm just trying to, okay,
No,
go ahead.
No, I'll
I
stop.
want you to think I'm forgetting about you, Ben. I see you down there.
Ben, go ahead. I can hold mine.
Oh, you're
I think
muted
Muted.
for some reason. Can't hear you. No, we can't hear you. It doesn't look like you're muted, but we can't hear you.
Looks like he's trying to unmute and it mutes him again. That's weird.
Yeah.
Turn the volume key up.
No.
You might have a connection problem.
So when you connected, you probably had to say connect with computer audio. I don't know if you want to disconnect and try to come back in. Or you can type in the chat the question you have,
Sure.
but we can't hear you.
Looks like he's going to try to come back in.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay. All right, Rafi, so why don't
Can
you,
you hear me now? Can you hear me
yes,
now?
Yes.
There you
Okay. I guess my question is, we're gonna currently, we used to use FHA guidelines. Is FHA, who's guaranteeing this loan?
Chaffa is actually, so it's not really following any agency guidelines. It's Chaffa's own program. We actually gonna full underwrite it in our house. So when the lender takes the application, instead of them underwriting it and owning the loan, we are actually gonna be the ones who underwrite the loan. So a lender's not gonna, be forced to repurchase in that regard. So we fully underwrite it.
You know, it's funny how I've been talking about this. This has been a problem for since I've been of 20 years or more, because when you're always using FHA's, their guideline and the guarantee because it was a bond situation.
Right.
But many, many years ago, they did have a program where the state was the guarantor. Is this similar to that?
I believe it is. Yeah,
Okay.
I believe so.
All right. So then, to qualify somebody for this program, you have guidelines regarding ratios and
Yeah, I'll just
debt and
share
debt.
this.
How do we get that?
Yep. So on our website, you're going to talk to one of our lenders. So again, you can go to our website right here. You'll see the two lenders currently offering the program, Capital for Change or First World Mortgage. They'll be able to, professionally pre-approve the borrower. But you can see some rough guidelines here. You can see 50% debt ratio. You can see property guidelines here, that the borrower has to adhere to. So some of the bullet point guidelines are right here on the website.
Quite liberal.
Yeah, we're really trying to open it up to help more people.
Yeah. Great. This is great.
Yeah, I think it's going to be very popular. It could go fast because it's so popular, but hopefully we're going to help a lot of people with it. Yeah.
Stampede. That's what we hope.
Yeah.
Right?
Well,
And then I know that there's been a lot of reps, state reps who have really vocalized the need to enhance the program, which is, we work to try to meet their goals. And hey, if the program catches on, kind of like Time to Own, when that came out 3 years ago, was a small pot of money. It was very popular, and those on Capitol Hill saw how effective it was, and then they put more money into the budget for it. So maybe we'll have the same fortune here. Maybe they'll see how effective this is, and our state legislators will earmark more money for it, which would be wonderful.
For those who've been on the council for 25 years or so, I mean, this has been what we've been looking for all these years. So it's just a big. This is a really a big move, and a lot of years waiting for it. Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, my pleasure, Ben. Thank you.
Nice work.
Thank you. Rafi, did you have a question too, or?
Yeah, well, I
sorry.
guess I want to ask ourselves the question, which is, I mean, this is sort of a new iteration of the program, but CHFA for the last, I don't know, 4 or 5 years has been great in terms of trying to do outreach and things like that. So but so far at least, the actual numbers in the program have been fairly low. At one point you were doing 1% financing and still you were getting only a handful of applicants. So my question is, are there things that are not being done that could be done more of? I mean, some of it may involve something like the Homeowners Alliance. I don't know if there's any more that CHFA can do than it's already doing in terms of making, trying to spread the word. But I'm just wondering, I mean, Dave seems to suggest that there's a need for the program.
Yeah.
And so the question is, can we think of any strategies, penetration strategies that would increase the penetration rate? Because this is like a total win-win situation.
Yeah, we just need to get the word out. We have done that, and Capital for Change does take a lot of applications. Part of the problem that they were running into in pre-qualifying people was people on the refinance portion and purchase, but especially refinance, because it's like, 1%. Okay, let's go. A lot of people didn't have 80% loan to value ratio or lower. So that was a big hurdle for them. They said credit was a problem. Now, there's not much we can do about credit. We always are going to need some level of credit to qualify. But the debt, I mean, the equity position going up to 100%, I think that's going to really open the door for a lot of people who were solid candidates with good credit, manageable debt ratios, but they just didn't have the equity in their property. I think this is going to help them quite a bit on both sides, purchases and refinances. And then, of course, on the purchase side, the rate, instead of being in the mid 6s, is going to be 3%. So that's going to help a ton of people. So, inflation has been tough on debt ratios. Everything costs more nowadays. People are putting more on the credit card to get by. Lord knows the, rents are very high out there. So debt ratio is an issue, but that 3% rate on a purchase should certainly help lower that debt ratio. But I'll certainly talk to the marketing department about getting the word out directly to the organizations that were mentioned earlier by Liz. For sure. And if you guys want to get the word out, feel free. Again, our website, you can get resources right there. Point people to our website. I'll find a way where I can send you guys this PDF flyer that's a color trifold, and see if I can email that to everybody, or if I can attach it here, I will try that. But yeah.
I was able to get on it with your QR code.
Oh, wonderful. Let me put that back on for a moment here then. Let's see here. Alrighty. Boom. Share. So yeah, I guess the QR code right there would work. Okay, cool.
Okay, so I do have more of a comment.
Sure.
You said earlier that some of the legislators had responded to the success of a similar program, and now they've injected some more capital into this one. Is it possible, let's just say the rosy scenario takes place and this money gets snapped up? Is it possible we could talk to you and find out which legislators are most influential in pushing this program further?
I can check with my director on that. I'm not part of those discussions. So I don't know who the legislators are, but I know that there have been some that have done outreach. You might even be familiar with some of them. But yeah, let me see if I can figure out from my director which ones in particular are lobbying, so that you can get in touch with them if you want. Absolutely.
That'd be great. I'd really appreciate
Yeah,
that.
sure. Yeah, let me write that down here.
I don't think there's been a program like this in years. They're giving the money away. They're just about giving it away.
Yeah.
What more can you ask for? I mean, it's so.
Agree.
Obviously, they're going to contact the Connecticut Association of Realtors, who has a telecast once a week. So I think these are all things but I think with this type of program, once you understand it, there's not much to understand. It's perfect.
It's very liberal.
Yeah, Ben,
you're gonna
actually, I'm sorry.
you're gonna let Mark Asmus and the park owners make them aware of this, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, I will. Mark was part of the call when I did the preview, and I've had some discussions with him since here and there about, items. And yeah, I'll make sure that he's fully aware and, get this flyer out to him. And again, our website, go to that hyperlink on the website and have, anybody who's a fit, certainly check it out.
Ben said something that I hadn't thought about, which is the Connecticut Association of Realtors. Are there realtors who specialize in mobile home purchase?
There is some, but not a lot normally. I mean, the Connecticut Association of Realtors overall, I think once they publicize it, I think anyone who may have, whether it's a buyer, I think it's the overall. The more you advertise it, the more you expose it, you're going to generate the interest. And I think once you understand, they're giving the money away, as I said before. Plus, the big problem we've always had for years and years and years, we're always under the thumb of FHA, and it was always an FHA guideline. So every program that everybody ever came up with, if you think about it, was a failure because of what? We were controlled by the government. This is, again, back in the 70s, there was a similar program that the state did have. They guaranteed the loans. So by guaranteeing the loan, there's a lot more flexibility. Right, Brian?
Agree. Absolutely. Yeah, no, the fact that we're able to offer 100% financing with no mortgage insurance, that's also such a powerful way to help that debt ratio for the borrowers. So again, they're going to have a lower mortgage payment by virtue of 3%. Yeah, that's a great rate. And then no mortgage insurance up to 100% financing. Again, max loan is 150. If the borrower wants to buy a property that's more than 150, they can, but then they would need to obviously use their own funds to exceed anything above the 150 loan.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, so if everyone's good with that, I do want to try to move along a little bit. Sure. Because we have a discussion. Our meeting only goes till 12, and we're going to be discussing some upcoming legislation, and I want to be able to have time to have that discussion. So okay. Does anyone have any other questions for Brian?
One quick question.
Good job.
Sure.
One quick question.
Okay.
Okay. When the discussion about this was going on, I heard somebody say that there was an annual meeting of the associations at Foxwoods or something. Was
the park owners? They have an annual.
Just the park owners, because I heard him say something about the alliance also.
I said something about the Alliance that I just
Okay.
became aware of that I wasn't aware of before. I don't know if they have annual meetings.
Okay.
Cool.
Okay.
Thanks, guys.
All right. Thank you, Brian. Great job.
My pleasure, Liz. Thanks, guys.
All right. So I think you need to stop sharing your screen and it might be easier for me to, there's everybody again. Thank you. So moving on, old business. So public education and promotion, visit to mobile home park, summer, fall 2025. That was sort of on me, and I had some things going on, some family things going on, and I haven't had any chance to work on this. One thing, I did find the mobile home parks, but I'm trying to figure out how to reach out to legislatures. I actually spoke to one about a week and a half ago that said she may be interested in helping me set this up, but I think it'll have to be, certainly after the session. And Rafi said he would help me with that as well. House on the Hill 2026 legislative session, maybe. That's the owners are going to have to help us with that. We don't have any owners here today. So I can't give you an update on that because one of them would have to purchase the home for their park, but it would, take a side trip to the Capitol first. So we don't have any update on that today because there are no park owners here. Mark Asnes was actually helping me with that House on the Hill.
If you want, Liz,
Yeah.
this would be like a long shot Hail Mary.
Mhm.
We have a on-site office of Sun Communities, which is,
Yeah.
a pretty big player, nationwide player,
Yep.
who brings in new homes on a fairly regular basis into Southington, which is only a few miles down the road from Hartford. I could talk to them. I mean, I don't have any influence with them, but I could talk to them and make them aware that we're looking to do this and see.
Yeah, I don't
how
know all the ins and outs of that. I think this was done once before, if I'm not mistaken.
Long
And
time
I don't know how, we get a permit to put it at the Capitol, where we put it at the Capitol. So that's something that we may have to figure out and try to work on for the 2026 legislative session, because obviously 2025 is almost over.
Yeah, Liz, I think as a practical matter,
Yeah.
The Park Owners Association has to be the one that does it. They used to do it regularly. It's happened many times, maybe 20, 25 years ago, where they brought a home up and they made some arrangement to set it up right in front of the Capitol entrance, and people could do walkthroughs and stuff like that. But I mean, I think they have to arrange that. I don't think that's something that we can arrange, and I don't think Dave can really. I don't think trying to get some communities is going to be the way to do it. I just think that's something that the park owners have to decide that they would like to do and make it happen.
All right. Well, so that being said, let's sort of table that discussion to the next meeting for now, because it's 11:27, and I'd like to move on to 7 new business, which is the 2025 legislative session update and discussion. And I was made aware a week or so ago, maybe 2 weeks, just under 2 weeks, that there is some new legislation out regarding mobile manufactured homes under House Bill 5428. And there was the original bill, and then I received a copy last week of an amended House bill. And, certainly we can go through it each section at a time. From what I understand, Rafi and Dave, you were instrumental in helping the legislators bring this forward. Was I given inaccurate information?
Well, it's my state rep that
Yeah, Representative Martinez, I spoke with her, but I think I would very much like it, since you were helpful in bringing this forward and writing this, if you would in fact sort of, to me, there's two major things, which, I was, disappointed that this didn't come to the council before being submitted, but apparently there was going to be some discussion in March, but nobody showed up. I didn't hear about this until, just a couple weeks ago. So, I would have liked to have had a discussion about this as a council and taken a vote as far as a consensus. But that being said, Rafi, why don't you, there's two major issues that I see here that are changed. One of them being the lease amounts, and the other being the council becoming I don't know how to put it, like the rent commission for mobile manufactured home leases. So I don't know if I'm saying that in the right way, but it would become, there would be, so this I'm gonna read what it says. One of the main things, it says, nothing in this subsection shall prohibit an owner from increasing the rent at the termination of a rental agreement if A, the owner delivers a written notice of the proposed rent increase to the resident at least. It used to be 30, it's now being proposed to be 90 days before the start of a new rental agreement. And B, the proposed rent is consistent with rents for comparable lots in the same park. And here's the big one that I'm aware that the mobile home owners are opposed to, provided that the proposed rent shall not increase at a rate that exceeds 1, the percentage change in the most recently published consumer price index for the preceding 12-month period plus 1%, or 2, the rate approved by the Mobile Manufactured Home Council pursuant to subsection C of section 21-84A as amended by this act. And then we go to subsection C, I don't have this highlighted, that speaks to the Mobile Manufactured Home Advisory Council taking on the role of approving rent increases that are higher than consumer price index plus 1% for owners. And I was hoping there would be some manufactured, some owners here today to discuss this, but there are none. So I would love to hear what everyone has to say about that. Those are the two main things. Rafi, can you think of anything else that is, there's some, they've added definitions of ancillary fee, consumer price index, they've added some new definitions, this definition of resident. They've changed a few words. There's nothing really major here. They've just most of it. A lot of the smaller changes were just clarifications, in my opinion. But the two big things were, number one, the rent being raised no more than CPI plus 1%. Or at a rate approved by the Mobile Manufactured Home Council. And I want to find that section. I don't know if has everyone seen has anyone here seen this other than me and Rafi and Dave?
And me.
Let me just try and do a little bit of infill here. Okay. That because there's the basic bill is seen by everybody in the world, because it was public. It went to public hearing back in March. The park owners testified. I think a number of park residents testified. People were very aware of the bill.
The first one, though, right? The one with the CPI plus 1%.
Right. In other words, that bill had, and so a piece of that bill, there were a lot of things in the bill, but a piece of the bill was a limit on how much the rent could be raised in a mobile home park. And so that was very much out there. I mean, I don't, that seems to me that wasn't a secret, or it wasn't,
Right.
There was there was testimony saying that there needed to be some way of making exceptions to that, where there was reason why higher rent increases were needed. And so I think that this bill came from has sponsor was a particular legislator. And so right now there is at the moment no actual filed proposal for changing the bill. But there has, as you know, been discussion about how there could be some way of approving exceptions. It's kind of like the basic bill is like a trigger. It says that if an increase is going to be more than a certain amount, then there needs to be an approval. And so my understanding is that a number of alternatives were explored, and one of them that the sponsor of the bill was interested in was trying to find some entity that had a resident owner balance. And that's, I don't think any of us know exactly where things stand at the moment. I think you have probably seen through the department, a version. I believe the department has had a fair amount of contact about this, and I think no one's really in a position to say what exactly is going to happen. There's very little time left in the session, so I would expect that if something's going to happen, it's going to happen in the next, before the session ends. But that's sort of, to my knowledge, that's the situation, and I think that finding an entity, that's what led to considering a variety of things. One of which was the advisory council taking on a new role.
Right.
I don't know if that answers.
And I just want to interrupt you real quick, because I found the section that speaks to. So currently the advisory council shall, number one, monitor the implementation of statutes and regulations affecting mobile manufactured homes. Number two, promote mobile manufactured homes in the state. Number three, conduct a public education program to improve public perception and local acceptance of mobile manufactured homes, and promote mobile manufactured homes as affordable, decent, safe, and sanitary housing. And fourth, study additional issues related to mobile manufactured homes. The bill, which was amended today, is my understanding, it was filed, this amendment, says, and 5, review, approve, modify, or reject each application submitted pursuant to subsection C of this section in accordance with the provisions of said subsection. And then it goes on to say, no mobile manufactured home park owner shall implement any proposed rent increase at a rate that exceeds the rate set forth. So that would be CPI plus 1%. At least 90 days before the effective date of such proposed rent increase, the owner submits an application to the council. So the council would become the body that would approve any rent increases over CPI plus 1%. And it says a form and manner prescribed by the council, which I don't know what that form and manner would be, which number one demonstrates that the proposed rent increase is necessary due to increases in the operating expenses incurred by the owner in operating the mobile manufactured home park. Number two, the real property taxes assessed by municipality against a mobile home or the park and payable by the owner. And 3, any costs that are directly related to the amortized costs of capital improvements in the mobile manufactured homes, and shall include an itemization of all funds allocated for deferred maintenance and may include the owner's projected net revenue and profit margin following approval of such proposed rent increase. So the Mobile Manufactured Advisory Council, and I'm saying advisory for a reason, would now become sort of an approving board, an approving body for any rent increases over CPI plus 1%, but it would have to be for those reasons. And I don't know about all of you, but I don't know if I'm comfortable doing that. So I'd like to hear from everybody else that's here. I was hoping there would be owners here because, you know, I think what the bill was hoping is that you'd have some equal representation, right? So it's also, by the way, adds, I believe, an alternate owner and an alternate resident. It adds that as well. So I'd love to hear everyone's thoughts on the council taking on this responsibility. And I know that you haven't seen it yet. I can't even share the screen with you. Because I just got it. I suppose I should have scanned it and shared it with you, but I can send it to everybody afterwards. But how does the council feel about becoming this board? Taking on this responsibility, the council. Dave, you want to go first? Everyone just throw your hands, put your little raise your hand up and I'll call you.
You know, I'm disappointed we don't have owners here too. It's the second meeting in a row. Maybe some of this stuff could have been hashed out before, but that's water over the dam. I'm probably in a unique situation. I have because of my professional background, I have certification as a Connecticut general appraiser. I'm a certified Connecticut tax assessor. I've put values on mobile home parks before. I've seen income and expense statements that are filed with the assessor. So I mean, and I like to think, because I've talked to residents, I live in a mobile home, I've talked to residents. I don't think any resident is opposed to increases by mobile home park owners, but they want to see, you know, what would justify CPI plus 1%, and you know what kind of infrastructure, what kind of long-term maintenance plans that's required, and I'll just point out that this was, you know, as you said, I haven't seen it. This has been kicked around for weeks. There were different ideas kicked around a couple of times as alternatives to the advisory council, and kept coming back to the advisory council. So my attitude is, between, you know, myself, somebody like Al Riz, who's been living in a resident-owned park for 25 or 30 years. Dan Billings, who's has a financial background and lives in the park in Danbury, and then the park owners with their perspective. An attempt was made to try to put a buffer in case the reason for the alternates was in case one of the park owners, the complaint was filed was his own, so he'd have to recuse him or herself. Same thing with a resident. So attempts were made because of the public testimony at the public hearing. You know, we were said there needs to be some kind of a body to administer requests by owners of greater than CPI plus 1%. And after a whole sifting process that I don't know a whole lot about, it came back to the advisory council. And, you know, that's why I wish they were here.
Okay, Dan, you're up next.
The first thing I would say is we would have to meet a lot more than quarterly if this was going to happen. It would be a lot to ask, I think, of the volunteers, but if they were willing, you can't be waiting 3 months to decide something that the landlords need to get done in less than 3 months.
Yeah,
And
and
the other-
might I add, I would agree with you, Dan, is that, quarterly, I don't think would work. The other thing is the advisory council is, supposed to be made up of sort of equal park owners and park residents. And as you see, there are no park owners here today. So I think it kind of throws off the equilibrium of saying that this would be a fair process if the owners aren't going to show up. Or there are no owners on the council. I don't know. This is sort of new. I think that, I don't know. I think Dan's right. And one of my questions is, we're all volunteers, right? So the appeal of any decision of this council would go to Superior Court in accordance with this amended bill. So my question is, what's the liability of we volunteer? There probably is none, just like a planning and zoning commission in a town. If the planning and zoning commission is sued, it's in, the members are in their capacity as a commission. So I assume that would be the same as a council. But, I just think that that's not the role of this board. I think that, we're trying to promote mobile homes, and I think there has to be a little bit of harmony. And I feel like the fact that there's not one mobile home park resident here, I don't know if that's on purpose or not, but, I think it's kind of upsetting our original purpose of being an advisory council that, Bennett Pudlin was saying, hey, start doing something really good, guys, together, or there's no need to have this council. I feel like, this amendment has taken the owners out of it. And, I thought we would have really good, discussions, owners and residents, and, trying to promote mobile manufactured homes as achievable housing. And I'm not sure, since there's nobody here, we wouldn't even know their opinion. I guess we do know their opinion. But Rafe, you have your hand raised.
Well, I'm uncomfortable about this discussion in a lot of ways, but I think I need to say something. That first of all, I think it's up to the legislature in framing what they would like this board to do. And so you're right. It's a different task, but the underlying legislative question is the policy about rent regulation. Should people be going to Fair Rent Commission? Should they be going somewhere else? And that's really the underlying policy. And so the legislature's, I think, is making a good faith effort to try and figure out how to implement that. I think it's reasonable to expect that if that's the decision they make, that they will, they will make whatever provision is necessary so that it can function. I have a lot of confidence in this board. I would expect that if these tasks are assigned, that all the board members will be showing up. I don't think that I would be quite shocked if park owners would decide that they weren't going to come to the board and leave it and not have a voice. The whole point I believe that the reason for doing it this way is precisely to find an entity where there's some sort of a balance. You see with Fair Rent Commissions, you sometimes see a lot of the local ordinances there say that you require that you have the same number of landlords as tenants, so that the idea is not to have it be one-sided. And I think this is, I can understand our hesitance to taking on new tasks that haven't been the tasks we've had before, but I kind of think that's really up to the legislature as to what tasks they want to assign it to us. And I'm pretty confident that if it's assigned to us, we'll do as good a job as anybody, probably a better job, precisely because the people who are here have some knowledge and understanding of mobile home parks, and they'll come to it from different angles. I mean, we don't know who the people are going to be. I mean, we happen at this particular moment in time to be members of the council, but that doesn't mean we're going to be members of the council forever, or even, in the near future. So it's not that, it's not a matter of saying, well, this person can do it and somebody else can't. It seems to me that I just think the council can do it as well as anybody else. And if the legislature wants us to take on the task, which is because they want to have a regulation of the rent and mobile home parks, then I don't think we should be, I think we wait. We just wait and see what happens, and we'll deal with it. The public hearing indicated there was a lot of disagreement about the underlying concept, not about the council, but about whether or not there should be any kind of regulation of the rents, and if so, what? I mean, if a mobile home park is in a town that has a fair rent commission, then there is a fair rent commission, but it doesn't control rents generally in the mobile home park. It only does it on an individual complaint. I mean, it seems to me it's perfectly rational for the legislature to say that there ought to be a structure for mobile home parks in particular that's different from, say, apartments, that essentially treats all the units in the park in the same way, rather than one by one based on individual complaints, that's the underlying issue. And then the question becomes, well, how do you make an absolute hard rule and say, absolute, nobody can charge more than X rent? Or do you say, well, you need to make an accommodation to the park owners to say, well, to show that, well, they really need this in this case, that they need to go beyond this limit. And I don't know, if you frame the question in a different way, which is what's the best entity, or given the availabilities of what the entities are, what's either what's best or what's an acceptable entity for making the decisions. And and does the legislature think that an existing entity should be partially repurposed? I don't know. I mean, it just seems to me that's from looking at it from that perspective, Liz, it just seems to me it's within the reasonable range of choices. And I think it's unfortunate we haven't had a conversation. The last meeting got canceled, which would have been very timely for a discussion. Now it's kind of late to be having a discussion. Yes, so I think, and certainly the major entities have gone to the legislature. I mean, it's not like either the residents or the park owners haven't talked to the legislature about what they think is reasonable and what they think is not reasonable.
Your argument makes perfect sense. So duly noted, and I want to get back to you, but it's 11:51, and I have Albert that would like to speak. Do you mind
Sure.
if I let him go and we can come back?
No, I'm fine. I wasn't going to say anything at all, but I just sort of.
Yeah, no, and I
under the
understand
circumstances, I
what
had
you're
to say
saying. It
something.
would be reasonable for the legislators to think that this council would be the appropriate body. But Al, what would you like to say?
I was just going to say, I don't know who the legislators would like to take on this responsibility. I haven't heard them actually say what departments might be considered for doing this. But the other thing that obviously I'm looking at the screen just like you guys are, and in order for the council to really do this fairly, let's say, I don't see the owners willing to step forward and be reasonable about resolving those kind of issues when they do come up. There isn't one on the screen. So if they're not going to take the responsibility,
I'm disappointed there's no one here too, Al.
both sides have to work at this equally to come up with a fair resolve to the issue.
Rafi, you got a few more minutes?
No,
You wanna
well, I'm
Say
not,
something else?
yeah, no, I'm not sure
You
what
good?
else to say. I think, if there's time at the end on a different subject, I would go back to something earlier but it's unrelated to this and we don't need to do that. I know you're trying to get through the whole meeting, so no.
Yeah, I know, because we end at 12, so, and there's someone here named Andy Markowski. I don't know who you are. Would you like to say hello? Did you just join us?
Hi, Liz. Thank you. I'm a member of the public just observing today. Thank you.
Oh, great. Okay. Hi. Thanks, Andy. So that being said, we have only 3 more items. 8 is committees reports, and we don't have any committees right now. Number 9 is correspondence. We have no correspondence, but before we adjourn, I think, one of the things that kind of fell through the cracks this year was having a legislative committee, and Rafi and I have talked about this, and we should have, probably started talking about this in September when we said we were going to, and then, we might have had, more notice of this legislator. And I think going forward, that's something that has to be important for this council is to, start working in, September towards the next session the following year. Do you agree, Rafi?
Oh, yeah, no. And in fact, we tried to get a meeting and I believe we had one meeting at the legislative committee, and then we tried to get another one and never got off the ground. And,
Right.
I think that certainly that's, yes, I agree with you.
So, well, now we're on item 10, adjournment. Does anyone have anything to say before we adjourn?
No.
Do I have a motion to adjourn? Oh, Dan, wait a minute. Dan, you have something to say? Real quick.
I just wanted to say, has there have been any thought to having this meeting more frequently? Every other month or once a month? It seems there's an awful long time that goes between one thing and another, and you're missing opportunities. That's it.
We can note that in the minutes, okay, under committee reports.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Well, can I have a motion to adjourn then?
Motion to
I
adjourn.
move.
Al, motion to adjourn, seconded by Dan? Or no,
Sure.
Dave Delory. So Albert and Dave Delory, and all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, until next meeting, folks. Maybe before that. Who knows? Thank you.
I get back.